Greetings. Welcome Jake Newport of Finnmark Sauna in the UK for a wide-ranging live discussion recorded at Sauna Days 2025 on Minnesota's North Shore. Joined by sauna builders, operators, manufacturers, and sauna enthusiasts from across North America and abroad, this episode explores one of the biggest questions facing sauna culture today. Where is the global sauna movement headed next? Jake Newport shares the remarkable story of Finnmark Sauna and the explosive growth of sauna culture throughout the UK over the last decade. What began as a niche interest surrounding by misunderstandings like hot boxes and hotel saunas and confusion about authentic Finnish sauna culture has evolved into a thriving movement centered around contrast therapy, community, ritual, craftsmanship, and meaningful human connection. The conversation dives deep into the parallels between the UK and US sauna scenes. Specifically, we talk about the rise of mobile sauna culture, community sauna movements, floating saunas and urban sauna installations, aufguss and guided sauna experiences, sauna festivals and social wellness spaces, sauna entrepreneurship, and the challenges of scaling authentically. How about the growing tension between corporate wellness brands and grassroots sauna culture, and why education and experience matter more than marketing hype? Jake explains how the UK sauna scene has rapidly evolved from a handful of sauna enthusiasts into a booming wellness ecosystem featuring sauna summits, beach sauna bar crawls, floating saunas, luxury urban bathhouses, and major commercial investments inspired by concepts like othership. He also offers thoughtful citation about what can be lost when traditional sauna culture becomes overly commercialized or repackaged into curated wellness products, disconnected from the deeper spirit and roots of sauna. Throughout the discussion, Jake and I reflect on the freedom that comes from building authentic sauna culture outside rigid tradition while still respecting the origins and essence of sauna bathing. The conversation explores how American and British sauna communities have a unique opportunity to innovate, experiment, and create new pathways for sauna to thrive in modern society. Our episode also features contributions from several leaders helping shape the North American sauna movement, including voices from Homecraft Saunas and others who share insights into manufacturing, social sauna spaces, accessibility, business ethics, and building community through heat and cold. So this was great. I mean, I really enjoyed sitting with Jake at any time. I call him the Nostradamus of sauna because he's so thoughtful, and where he sits in Britain, to his right, North America, and to his left, the Nordic Baltic companies and that region over there. He sort of sits at that precipice of a lot of things happening. So at its heart, this episode is about sauna construction and wellness trends on the surface, and it delves deeper into purpose, belonging, connection, and creating spaces where people can slow down, put away their phones, and reconnect with themselves and each other. On the heels of Sauna Days 2026, we're pleased to bring you this episode, recorded live at Sauna Days 2025. If you've ever wondered what it really feels like to build, fire, and live with a sauna, not the glossy brochure version, but the real deal, you're going to want to check out the SaunaTimes YouTube channel. This is where we go beyond the written word. You'll come along with me into such places as backyards, cabins, and wood-fired sauna builds, hearing the crackle of the fire, seeing the steam rise, and learning what works and what doesn't from real experience. I share decades of hands-on sauna practice, everything from how to build your own sauna to dialing in your hot-cold cycles to the deeper rhythms of sauna bathing that connect us to something pretty fundamental. If you're serious about sauna or even just curious where to begin, clicking around the SaunaTimes YouTube channel may be just what your sauna doctor ordered. And one more thing, like many of you, I've been a sauna nut for decades, so you'll get some long in the tooth, unfiltered, unscripted, not so much designed for prime time, straight up content. We are DAIfied and not optimized for likes or shares. But please do that anyway as your spirit moves. Interested? Head over to YouTube and search SaunaTimes and subscribe. I'd love for you to join our community. Thanks so much. Thank you. Okay, great. A lot of people came a long way for Sauna Days. And everybody in? Everyone settled? Okay, this is great. This is my good friend Jake. Jake, how long have we known each other?
Oh, good question. I guess 6-7 years, maybe longer.
Jake's like a kindred spirit, you know, like that whole what is that, doppelganger effect, where somebody, when Jake started in on Finnmark, which he'll tell you about his company. I was like looking at what's going on across the pond, you know, me in Minnesota, Jake in Great Britain, and I'm thinking to myself, there's just a parallel universe happening. And you'll hear Jake's story, but I just want to give a quick introduction and thank you. Jake, you came to Sauna Days last year?
Yeah, and obviously come back with a vengeance this year. So I brought my parents and my wife as well. So it's really exciting to be here, and I think this is early days, Sauna Days, and in maybe 10 years we'll look back at this thing and go, do you remember when it was just a few hundred people in the lake room? So yeah.
Jake operates on the bleeding edge of change and innovation, and so you know, to have him recognize this event as bleeding edge and cutting edge is a great compliment to the event itself, and then you folks for making the trek. But nobody's made the trek further than Jake and parents and wife Lisa. So thank you guys for coming to Sauna Days 2025.
Thanks for having us. Thank you. Cheers. Okay, so the talk that I was originally going to give, I got curveballed last minute, and Glenn's given me a slightly different title. So you'll have to forgive the slightly later start because I've been reworking the slide deck a little bit. And those of you who were here last year as well, I've done the great thing that I'm sure many of you guys in the industry have done, and there's a few slides reworked in there that you might recognize from last year. But the important thing is there's changes, updates, kind of what's going on. I'm going to give a bit of an overview of kind of who I am, who we are as well, for those who don't know. So the title of the talk is UK Sauna meets US Sauna. So what I'll caveat this with is kind of my understanding internationally, working with a lot of different companies in different spaces. I think what Glenn really wanted me to talk about is kind of what I see happening in the UK, what's happening here in the US, what changes you guys might expect. So we talked about this parallel universe just before, and it's like things happen in the UK. It's like a microcosm of what can happen in the States. So we see little changes happening and cool things happening, and then in the States it kind of goes to the next level and booms out. So you know, part of this kind of predictive, you know, where's this industry going? What's the future of it look like? We can look at other markets, we can look at the UK and go, well, this is kind of what's happening there. And the similarities are, we're both sauna cultures that for the most part are not sort of burdened by tradition that we have to uphold. And what's interesting about that is it means that we can riff on the concept, we can try new things and see what's happening in this space and what it might look like in the next few years. So I have to caveat that with, I have a reasonably good understanding about what's going on here in the US, but the reason I come here and the reason I listen to so many great people here is I don't really know what's going on here in the States because it's massive. There's so many different things going on in different areas. But I have a general idea and I have a gut feel about how this could look. And at the moment, for many of us, not just in the sauna industry, but in terms of, you know, global geopolitics, the future is uncertain, which is both an opportunity and a risk. So we'll kind of touch a little bit on that too. So a little bit about the Finnmark story. many of you may have already heard this before. I often joke that I'm a failed archaeologist. That's my career title. I studied archaeology at university because I had a passion for understanding what people might call primitive technologies, which is almost a bad name because there's nothing primitive about these highly complex, highly skilled things that people could do many thousands of years ago. But I was fascinated about how, we as a species, you see a sheep in a field, it's born, it knows it eats grass, it doesn't go through 21 years of education to then go and eat the right kind of grass. It's born, it lives. Same with any other animal, but we humans, we require all of this technological training for a long time to understand. And I just, was fascinated by the idea that if you dropped a kid in the middle of nowhere, the chances are, it wouldn't look pretty good for them that if they couldn't suddenly start hunting and gathering. So I was fascinated by that, and as part of that, I got to try some quite amazing sweat bathing rituals, and that was really, my first kind of exposure to that. And through doing this, I spent time out in Finland, where I really got to understand, okay, sauna is this totally different thing to what I tried in these hot, dry boxes that you find in a lot of hotels and spas. So this transformative Finnish experience, very similar to what we're seeing today, going from a hot, steamy, hot room into a cold plunge, was in stark contrast to, this is us jumping in the cold plunge in Finland. Hot boxes that we'd seen. So I came back from that with a passion to build our own sauna, and this kind of fed into starting a business off the back of it. When building this, a lot of the Finnish companies that we were working with didn't have representation in the UK, but were interested in having it. But the market really wasn't there for this kind of experience. If you asked people about sauna, they'd be like, "Oh, I don't really like sauna. It's really, really hot, really dry. There's no stones in the heater. I kind of tolerate it for 10 minutes after a workout." And weird and wonderful things like, people didn't really understand where it was from or what it was. So people would ask questions about infrared. People would ask questions about, isn't it that Swedish thing that people do? Like, isn't it where gay guys hang out? Kind of. And that's where we were 10 years ago. So when I look now at the industry that we've all nurtured, and I look around this room with some faces I recognize who've put a lot of work into really helping re-educate and bring this kind of back to what it could be. So this is an example of what, 10 years ago you think of a sauna, you think of this hot, dry box. Does this one have a freestanding heater? If you're lucky, it would have a freestanding heater that you could pour water on, but there would be a sign that said if you pour water on the heater, it will cause a fire, which is just a beautiful idea. Whoa! And it was kind of a strange place, and a lot of people uncertain about what they were supposed to be doing in there. And I still see that uncertainty in a lot of the mass population, but it's quickly changing. Just kind of sitting there in this heat, not really sure what we should be doing. Sand timers on the wall, which if you were here for the talk yesterday is a big bugbear of mine. I really, I wish we could stop selling them. I wish we could stop having to push that and encourage people to listen to their body a bit more. So my brother and I collaborated in setting up this company with my lovely wife here, Lisa, as well. And we're very much a family business, but we've ridden this kind of wave of success over the last 10 years and reinvested with this vision of taking an education-first mentality. So, a big part of our success is actually, we're not just shifting boxes. We're not just trying to sell a lot of product. And some of the downsides that we see in the European market, and some of those things I see happening here, is a race to the bottom that happens where everybody starts selling to everybody. You know, a lot of online resellers, e-commerce drop shippers who have no idea about the experience, no idea about the products, devalue brands, undercut on pricing, don't bring any of this free support and knowledge, which again we talked about yesterday. You know, there were 4 sauna builders here, every single one of us saying, you know, how difficult commercial projects are because we give our time and advice so freely, and so that you can spend a huge amount of time with a customer, and then some guy with a laptop down the road who's selling it for 10% cheaper gets the sale. When there's tech support issues, he passes it back to the manufacturer. Manufacturer's drowning in tech support issues because he's got these sloppy e-commerce sellers. That's not what we're about. And one of the things I love about coming here is meeting so many people who share that mindset. And I think that's a really important thing for any industry, but especially this industry, for us to maintain a healthy ecosystem. And I think I'm slowly starting to see this separation happening where, you know, certain, I won't name names because that's always dangerous, because this will appear on the internet somewhere and it'll get clipped and sent to somebody. So I'm not going to name names, but certain brands who sell to everybody are having a more and more difficult time because there's no margin to be made in the product and therefore nobody wants to sell it. Similarly, good, wholesome, smaller batch brands where it's all about care and support for the customer and good outcomes for the customer and not just selling to everybody, those brands are really starting to boom. You know, and some of those people you can look around the room today who have manufacturing businesses in this space are really seeing that accelerating growth. So that's exciting to see, and I really hope that continues. And I think we'll end up with 2 camps, you know, this kind of like throwaway sauna culture of cheap gear that nobody has time or margin to tech support, and then these good wholesome brands that last a long time, bring a lot of customer satisfaction and represent a really good experience sold by people who have the time and willingness to care. So these are some of the kind of projects that our guys do. So a lot of high-end, bespoke, indoor residential, driven predominantly by the fact that we have about 70 million people in the UK. So the typical UK household maybe doesn't have the kind of income bracket to be able to afford something really high-end in their very small homes. But if you take the 1% or the 0.1% of that population, that's still many hundreds of thousands of people. And as in any industry, when you focus on doing what you're really good at and focus on doing it properly, the people who want your work tend to be these people. But at the heart of what we do, we want to support the whole ecosystem. So we have an e-commerce arm which provides everything from equipment and materials at the ultimate budget end, all without compromising on quality, I must say. So not the Chinese stuff, but helping people build saunas, you know, sometimes on a very shoestring budget, all the way up to these amazing high-end design-focused installations for high net worth and ultra high net worth. The full spectrum of our portfolio covers every sort of market segment there. But I like putting these pictures on because they look great. So. And a couple of photos, although these need updating, from our facilities as well. So we have, I think there's a better slide for this. We have, so 40 staff, typically 2 to 3 bespoke projects fulfilled per week, and somewhere in the region of 50 to 75 projects worth of materials per week go out of our warehouse. So we kind of work on the belief that, you know, there's about 80 more saunas built per week in the UK using our infrastructure. And we work with 60 different suppliers from across Europe. So we have a really good handle on the good, the bad, the ugly, the difficulties. And many of those are shared with some of you guys in the room as well. So another reason I love to come here is to really, you know, talk about what's good, what could be better, and the difficulties that we all face. A few other kind of milestones on there. I won't bore you too much with this for too long, but we give back a lot. So we sponsor pretty much any decent event that is going in the UK, whether it's the Aufguss team who compete at the World Aufguss Championships, which if you guys don't know about, I strongly suggest looking into. It's sort of like dancing with the stars in a sauna. Every nation pretty much now is represented. Even I'm told the Finns might be sending a representative, which is really big. And I always thought that maybe it was not for me or a bit weird and wonderful, but I see its place. It brings a huge number of people into a sauna to stay longer than they normally perhaps would and see something that's like a curated story. And some of these Aufguss experiences, the Japanese team 2 years ago had the whole, I guess it was about 100-person sauna, big sauna, male and female, everyone in tears. It was just, I would start trying to tell you the story, but it still makes me well up when I do it. So, you're more emotionally vulnerable in there. So I think it's something that a lot of the time we hear people go, oh, that's kind of a weird thing. We don't want to engage with that. My suggestion to everybody, just try it out and understand that it might not be your thing, but there's a place for it in this ecosystem. And we'll talk a bit more about that later as well, the importance of letting these cultures kind of do their thing and find their place. UK Sauna Summit as well, we'll kind of come on to that. Sauna Aid, supporting the Ukrainians in their very difficult situation. And then World Sauna Forum as well, which is coming in the summer, which I recommend to anyone. So the UK culture, domestic aside, when we look at what's happening broadly, we had this wave of sauna trailers. And that was so that we could get kind of pop-up commercial saunas on beaches, at places that, the equivalent of city planning code or whatever would say, you can't build a bricks and mortar sauna there. These have done phenomenally well, and these are the unsung heroes of this revolution, because that is such a hard job to stand on a beach, outside of maybe like 4 weeks of the year. You're in just the most harsh conditions that anywhere can throw at you, and they're up at the crack of dawn to get a fire going to then give these amazing curated experiences. And this has been so successful that in some parts of the south of the UK, you could literally do like a bar crawl of saunas along beaches all day and still have many more to go to. And so this has been a big success, but it's also a driver for change, because these guys pull people out of the traditional spas and hotels. And those spa and hotel operators and commercial operators, they're not going to just sit there and take that. They're going to ask why, what's going on, what are we doing wrong? And so last time I was here, I touched on what that might look like for the future. Similarly, we have a lot of authors now, amazing female authors, particularly the two. Here we have Emma O'Kelly, who's just released her second book, Wild Sauna, which she created a map and a list of all of these wild spas or sauna trailer businesses that had set up across the UK in amazing places. And a very hard job to do, because at some point she's going to have left somebody off the list. So it's always very difficult. It's like somebody saying, what are your top 5 saunas to go to? It's like, oh boy, I'm going to get in trouble here. So she's just released this book, and this book couldn't have been written 5 years ago. It would have been a book of 2 or 3 pages maximum, and nobody would have bought it, nobody would have known about it. So just to give you an idea of the pace of change, that not only is this now ubiquitous, it's everywhere. It's everywhere enough that you can write a book about it that people will buy to go and try these things. So it's nice to see how fast that uptick has happened. And then Rosanna Cooney, who's from Dublin, has made a book about Irish sweat houses. So any of you guys, I know that there's a lot of Irish DNA here in the United States. amazing story about the Irish people. They had their own sweat bathing culture, and Irish sweat houses are not like saunas in the traditional sense. They build these, I guess, like an igloo out of stone and make a turf fire inside. It's quite small, like 2 to 3 people can fit inside. They heat it up for 4 hours thereabouts and then scrape out the fire. But it's a dry stone structure, so air can move freely in. And you get inside and the whole space re-radiates the heat back at you. So it doesn't have the traditional stones in the middle that you would pour water on. The whole structure is the sauna stones. And that's quite a cool concept. I would love to go and try one of these. And also, don't forget, it rains a heck of a lot in Ireland. So I love the idea of that, like it starts to rain and you just get this insane sauna steam as well. So I really want to play around with that concept. But she's also done a lot of work about what's going on in the Republic of Ireland and across the UK in terms of this sauna revolution. And also a bit about sauna health as well. It's like a PhD thesis. It's so well written. So going back to a couple of those things, UK aufguss team, again, 5 years ago, this wasn't a thing. We didn't have an aufguss team. We now have the UK Aufguss Championships happening just before the UK Sauna Summit. And I think they have they have teens of people who are competing now. So again, just to see that from 5 years ago to having people really competing to go to the championships is unbelievable. The UK Sauna Summit last year, it sold out at about, I think, 140 tickets. There's a few people who were there, Eric speaking, obviously Glenn as well. This year it's set to be 350, and it's sold out on pre-sales. So they just put it live, not knowing how many people would. In fact, I spoke to Mark, the organizer, and he was like, we're going to go for 300, but I'm not sure whether we'll sell all of that. And then straight away, everything sold, and he was like, oh boy, we totally misjudged that. So yeah, I think, next year it could easily be double again. So, to be going double, it's just really remarkable, that level of growth. And then the British Sauna Society is having to sort of reimagine itself and formalize itself. And I kind of look at what they've done this year in terms of setting up a, more kind of legitimate structure and, voting rights and how everything will work moving forward to be more focused on delivering value for the members. And I look at that and think probably the same thing is coming with some of the American organizations that have been a bit more, a few guys meeting up and having beers and, chewing the fat on the top bench to something more like for the people and for its members that will really bring value to them, so that they can find good saunas, access good sauna builders, etc. Those organizations people give willingly to. The membership to the British Sauna Society for a long time brought no membership value, but people have still paid to maintain membership. But now they're looking a lot more at how can we give back to these members? What do they want? Do they want maps of where they can go to try different saunas? Do they want saunas to be rated for hygiene, accessibility, etc.? And do they want access to discounts from high quality vendors in the space? So all those things are really kind of formalizing. Like you see in so many other industries, we're just a little bit behind the curve by comparison. Similarly, we have these community sauna bath projects. So Hackney Wick was the first one in East London. This is a lot more, how to put it, a lot more like a grassroots movement. And if you've ever been to East London or you kind of know about East London, it's a lot more artsy, a lot more kind of, rough and ready compared to your typical spa setup, but very well attended. A lot of people really love the concept and they're branching out to try and make sure that there's more of these in other areas. And the idea of this is they're not for profit. So, yes, you're not getting a luxury spa experience, but it's about bringing accessible experiences to people. And what I love about this is these community sauna baths, do not undermine the value of the marketplace. People are not going, oh, if one of these pop up, nobody's going to come to my sauna because they're all going to go to this cheaper, more accessible place. It's creating this market. People are going and trying that experience and then getting a hunger to go somewhere else and try something else. So having a semi-charitable setup that is like, just come and try it. It's cheap. You've got nothing to lose. It's relaxed. It's you know, it's nice. And yeah, the other thing with it being not for profit is now they have to invest in improving these facilities. So it's really impressive to see. And Charlie and the team who run it are just the most lovely people you could, you know, exactly who you'd want to be steering that kind of setup. And then the Saunaverse, so using a lot of those facilities, Tom DeWilton runs a sauna festival called the Saunaverse, and that continues to grow traction as well. So we're seeing more of those kind of sauna festivals, and I'm a big advocate for the, you know, it's a lot like this event. So a little bit about one of the projects we've been involved in and the kind of changes that we're now seeing. So I talked about those you know, those brick and mortar establishments who are going to start wondering where all the people went. And what we're seeing now is people who have money to invest, who understand that they've lost a lot of market share to these trailers and these other facilities, going, how do we bring them back? And the current methodology, the current thing that people are looking at is they're looking at things like othership. And I'll talk about othership in a moment. So for those of you guys who don't know about othership, started in Toronto as a concept. There's now 2 in Toronto. There's 1 in New York. And this is it's kind of a hybrid setup. It's like an aufguss sauna with cold immersion afterwards. So you've got kind of hot-cold therapy. You've got ritualized experiences. So they're taking these naive users in and giving them demonstrations on breath work. Some of it is a bit of spirituality as well. We were involved in the ARC project, which you know, we essentially built the whole sauna, built and designed the sauna here for the ARC project, which is in Canary Wharf, which is London's business district, or one of the big business, you know, when you see the skyscrapers of London, it's usually either the Square Mile or Canary Wharf. So you've got guys walking around in suits and ties like Wall Street outside, and then, you know, they got a 30-minute lunch break. They're bolting into here for a little bit of decompression time, and then straight back to trading futures or whatever they do. So this is great. It seats, different people quote different amounts. It seats 80 people. Opening night, there was more than 100 people in there. So technically, 65 to 80 is what they consider comfortable in there. And, you know, they've got this down. They understand the commercials behind it, and the level of investment in this is, you know, is millions of dollars. So it's done at a really premium end. It feels nice. You go in there, you know, you feel kind of looked after. And for that naive public, it's an excellent way to bring a lot of people in. We were also, here's some other photos. So you can see, I think these photos could have been from opening night as well. So you have people in there doing the aufguss rituals, which is where they move the air through the space with towels. There's a little bit of acrobatics to that as well. So there's a little bit of flair for you to enjoy watching something. Usually there's some music going on as well. And the sauna master, Alana Kitt, who runs a lot of these, you know, she'll be in there with a sort of mic'd up and, you know, talking you through breath work and things like that, and then taking you through to cold plunge afterwards and making sure that you enjoy that experience rather than get in and gasp and freak out. They're kind of there to support you. And I think this, again, is so good for educating the public. You know, the small group of people who would scoff at the idea of this kind of setup, you know, their version of sauna can convert 4 people at a time to the idea that sauna is this great thing. This is like a mass conversion event. You know, you can get 80 people in a room, and okay, it might not be the world's best finished sauna experience on a lake somewhere, but it's it gets people thinking. It gets them going, instead of going, oh, I don't really like these hot, dry rooms, to going, actually, this is something very different. And the way that we change consensus here in terms of getting people to do these things is if the experience is net positive, and you're in a group of people and they go, I heard about this ARC thing, and they go, oh, I went there, it was good. Okay, I might go and try that then. It's this trickle effect of getting that information out there. And you have to get enough people in to the experience that there might be somebody in the in crowd, in that group, who has something positive to say. Because if people have only read about it in the paper, they'll go, oh, that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Yeah. It's easier to be skeptical when nobody you know has actually been. So in these kind of setups, getting that volume through, I think is actually, for where we are in the market right now, is really positive. We're also involved with doing the interior fit out for Wild Sauna, which is a floating sauna in the Liverpool docks. The first floating sauna, apparently in the UK. There may be others, I don't know. But I'm fairly sure this is the first commercial floating sauna. Different demographic here. If any of you guys know about the people of Liverpool, for example, there's more of this is about being seen there, and maybe being seen in some nice swimwear as well. But another great thing, like when I heard about this concept of putting a sauna there, I sort of thought, it wouldn't be my first choice to put there. I would go where I think the sauna goers are. But what's amazing about this is they're setting these up in places where, you wouldn't typically go, these guys are all going to go to sauna. And they've got, big commercial heaters with stones that you can pour water on. You can go and try this experience and see something different. And I'm thinking, wow, actually, we're converting people. We're getting the message out in the communities you wouldn't have expected it to be. If you're going to set up a sauna business and you're looking at the United States, you might go, well, Minnesota, there's a ton of people who love sauna. This is a good place to put it. But just imagine going, Houston, Texas is where we're going to set ourselves up. Okay, what, Texans are going to go to this thing? And yeah, they're doing it so differently, and I'm pleased to be proven wrong that actually, you can set these things up in these places and they're doing incredibly well. And a lot of these have now been a proof of concept, and the conversations have turned to, let's get these in all these cities. So big investors are looking at this. They have proof of concept now, and it's, your average sauna trailer on a beach guy is using his life savings and really scrapping around to get this thing set up. These kind of organizations, they have funders, they have VCs, they have backers. People going, let's put one of these in every major city. So commercially speaking, we're at the beginning of a very exciting journey. This is Wild Sauna on an evening as well. So it looks out across the docks there. Frustratingly, they have cold plunges on the deck here because in typical European style fashion, the regulation of getting, if people can't just get in the water there, there's rules and regulations. So I'm sure people still do it, but you have to have cold plunges next to the water. Otherwise, somebody could really hurt themselves. Oh. And then even more excitingly, we've been building saunas in places, those old school commercials at the really high end. So those of you who maybe heard of the Shangri-La Hotel Group, they have these 5-star or 6-star or however many is the top level of star now hotels. And in the UK's tallest building, the Shard, we have a sauna on the 40-something floor. I think it's, if you look at this building here, it's somewhere up here. That just looks out across the whole London cityscape. As you can see from this picture, it's always raining in the UK. But I've been there when it's really beautiful. You can see the whole of the London skyline. And they have a beautiful Tully Kiwi soapstone heater that you can pour water on. And so even at this more traditional hotel and spa level, at the high end, they're going, okay, we need to rethink these experiences. This isn't just a cheap wooden box with a hidden heater and no stones. People are more educated, they're more they're more selective consumers now. And if this hotel, minimum £1,000 a night, so $1,500 a night to stay at this hotel. So this discerning customer who maybe is well traveled, and a lot of them are international customers, they expect a quality experience. They don't want this kind of fake hot box. And then Therme Group, I've put this in here because these guys are landscape changing, the way they're bringing this continental wellness experiences with just, sites that maybe have 15, 20 hot rooms of different types and different setups, which you see a lot in continental Europe, but is completely new to the UK. They're busy working on their Manchester site at the moment, but with these mega projects, they say a few years, it could be 5 years before they open the doors. It could be longer. If it's anything like our UK mega structures like high-speed rail, it'll go on for 10 years and then get cancelled. So. The USA. So we've talked a bit about the UK, what's going on. I typed in sauna USA and I got these cool pictures. I don't know what this is all about. So I love these. I had to throw them in here. I know we're not supposed to talk about politics at these kind of things, but I particularly love this one with the puppets of Boris Johnson and Trump in the sauna eating fried chicken. That's great. So from the outside looking in, there's kind of a stratification in the States. It's really kind of distinctly polarized. And I've called it the Big Four here. There's more than this, and it's probably unfair to some of the other very large operations to have just picked out 4. But I think it fits nicely on the slide, and also makes it easier to talk about some of these guys. So in the States, you have, of course, as is often the case, some businesses that are highly corporate, highly set up for creating shareholder value, right? And that's what they're set up for. They have some great little strap lines. I think the Sauna 360 one is making people better, great strap lines. But the reality is these are about creating shareholder value. And that's not always at the interest of the end user. It's, how do we get as much product into as many people's hands as possible? And, I know there's some guys here who've worked in corporate before as well. And Glenn himself, Mr. Nestle, is, how many Kit Kat bars he sees around and goes, yeah, another Kit Kat sold. It's great. So I see this kind of market as distinctly polarized, and what we have here today actually is a different room where it happens, a different room full of people who actually represent the other side of this, who focus on the experience first. And I think the difficulty that we have is you guys here have grown over the past few years and had great success in this space doing what you do, because it's infectious. Your passion for this experience just brings more and more people to you. But these guys sit here wondering what they're doing wrong, just like those big bricks and mortar commercial we were talking about before. And I think they will make this market very difficult over the next 5 years, because they have the operational clout to do very big things in the market that could be quite disruptive. So I think any business in this space looking at the landscape should be looking at it as, how do we make ourselves as robust as possible in those niches where these guys aren't going to try and pull the rug out from underneath you. And the reality is they're not going to try and pull the rug out from underneath you guys. They're going to be fighting with each other, and we're all just going to be collateral in that. So I think it's something to be mindful of, and a race to the bottom and putting a squeeze on a market is the sort of behavior that these guys will do. But businesses like like Superior here, like the Prairie Wood guys, etc. This, you guys are selling something that is different. The kind of customers that you guys engage with are different, and they're more experienced, focused. And I think the biggest enemy to these guys is education. The more that somebody is an educated consumer, the more they are likely to. Same with beer. Those big brand beers, your Miller Lights or your Bud Lights, etc. Once somebody's an educated consumer and they've developed a taste for, a nice Minnesota brewed IPA, then they're not going to go and buy one of those big brand beers because they know what good tastes like. So I talked about othership before, and I do see that there is, the next stage in this sauna revolution could very much look like a lot more of these in a lot of cities. They appeal a lot to a younger demographic as well, who are looking for something different, looking for a sense of community where they've lost it. Particularly in Europe and the UK, we see a big drought in community spirit amongst younger people, because people aren't going to pubs as much anymore. They're not drinking as much. They're not going to church anymore, and they're not interacting in community groups that you'd find in villages and towns. A lot of them are moving to big cities, surrounded by people, but with a really strong sense of loneliness. They have people above them, below them, and at the sides, and yet they sit there in their rooms by themselves. And these kind of experiences, you go into them and people are talking. People have put down their phone and they're connecting with somebody. And also they're talking to people that they wouldn't talk to on the street. Big age differentials. Some old guy in the corner talking to a young couple on the front, just absolutely relaxed, connecting with each other. And to boot, it's good for you, it's healthy. Although the doctors who sauna will probably say, we need to do some more research. And that's true. We know that it's, broadly speaking, good, but the truth is the research still has a long way to come. So I kind of foresee more of these, but I want to give a little word of warning. And this is something I'm on the warpath a little bit at the moment about. In my 20s, I went to India. And before I went to India, somebody recommended I read a book called Karma Cola. It's a short book by an Indian lady who was brought up in India and was in her 20s in the 60s and 70s, when hundreds of thousands of Westerners descended on India to become enlightened gurus and find the sacred Eastern knowledge and bring it back to the West. And in her book, she talks about the fact that India and Eastern culture is so complicated that even Indian people don't understand it. We're talking, in India, they have many languages, many religions, many different ethnic groups, a caste system, like a very complicated class system. So many Indians themselves don't understand it. And a lot of these Westerners came over for a month and came back as gurus who knew everything about Eastern philosophy. And so the caution I have is that there's a chance now with this othership model that we are jumping so far ahead and suddenly trying to render down and boil down the essence of these different sauna cultures, German aufguss sauna culture, Finnish sauna culture, to deliver essentially a productized experience in a box. And the dangerous thing with that is we lose a lot of what actually makes those experiences important, and it becomes disingenuous. The email I got, I'm kindly being hosted by Alan next week, and we're going to go to Othership. And the intro email I got from Othership, even the language they use, what modality of wellness this journey is going to, and I'm like, oh, God. And I'm like, for me, that feels so disingenuous. And maybe it's because I've had the benefit of being around in this space for a long time. But I think we risk, kind of making a caricature of the whole experience by rendering these things down. And I listened to some of these sauna masters giving these sauna journeys, and some of the things they're saying, and I'm like, I cringe a little bit because I go, that's not exactly right, you know, and maybe that's my autism kind of twitching out that, you know, I'm sat there and going, just go along with it, just relax, that's not what it's about. But, you know, I kind of hear in the back of my voice these kind of things, back of my head, these voices saying, yeah, we've got to be careful here. We don't want to undermine this. And we want this to be an introduction to sauna for people to go and then try more and experience different cultures. But we don't want everyone to think that that is what that is the totality of that experience, because it is sauna cola. It is just a boxed up wellness experience that you can buy for $20 to get your little bit of wellness for that day. And that's different to what wellness is really about. But there is one hope, because we have a very similar story where this has happened before. And it goes back to those hippies who came back in the 60s and 70s to bring Eastern philosophy to the world. And I view this as hopeful, but on our podcast, speaking to Rosanna, the lovely lady who wrote the Irish Sweat Lodge book, she saw it as a very sad story. I'm hopeful that those hippies who came back, a lot of them, some of them gave up, some of them created their little cults and, you know, drank the Kool-Aid and did all that crazy stuff. And some of them kept up these things like yoga. And if we think about it, you know, 50 years ago, yoga wasn't even in our language. It wasn't even a thing that people knew about. And this morning I saw 40 people out my window stretching and doing yoga. And yes, none of us are now connected to the Eastern philosophy behind that, or certainly less connected than the original intended use of this exercise. But every day around the world, millions of people now wake up and they do yoga at home, or they do yoga in community groups, or they do yoga with their friends. And if you replace yoga with sauna, my hope is that means that, you know, we cut to 10 years' time, and pretty much millions of people wake up and they sauna at home, they sauna in the community, or they sauna with friends. So if there's any echo of what sauna is about in that experience later, then great. So yeah. Little Q&A. Anybody got any questions?
Great, thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Yeah. We got time for a couple. Again, Jake from Finnmark, UK. Anyone have a question for Jake? What's your name? Where are you from?
Hi, Eric Monk from Chicago. And that Karma Cola, I feel like maybe today's version is the TikTokification or Instagramification, and it has the ability to reach a whole new audience, younger, but I'm wondering if you've experienced maybe the benefits or the dangers of that.
Excellent question. I think the danger thing we haven't seen so much yet, but it will come. I think there was a period where that market, people were using those more social media channels to put a lot of essentially fake news about infrared into the marketplace. And you know, a lot of the IR marketing material, I've seen infrared marketeers saying things like it will cure cancer, or you know, make a bald man get his hair back and stuff like that. And that's just nonsense. That's just weaponized, you know, people trying to make money from just playing on people's insecurities and desperation. We haven't seen that yet in a big way in the UK on it, but to give you an example, opening night of the Ark, which is like the other ship, I was sat in there, and to the right of me I had fitness influencers, to the left of me I had fitness influencers, and they weren't there, and they were enjoying the experience. That's unfair, but they weren't there to enjoy the experience. They were there to create content, and you know, that's different. They're working. They're not thinking about themselves or how they feel. They're thinking about how this might play out or look on social media. And I think that's probably more about the dangers of social media, though, than the dangers of the sauna space.
Yeah, well said.
Last question, anyone? Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Jake, how many sauna rounds did you get in yesterday?
I guess 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Not enough.
You lightweight.
I know.
Too much talk. What did you call it yesterday?
Gassing.
Gassing. Too much gassing.
Yeah, that's true.
Not enough off gas.
Yeah, not enough.
Hey, my name is Julian. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. So my partner and I are opening a bathhouse in a city that hasn't had one in 100 years.
Wow.
And so we're doing saunas, cold plunges, hot pools. And the big thing that we're talking about is how do we build a culture in Richmond? So we have our own personal practice, and we align deeply with your value of listening to your body versus having the protocol.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who are new to the practice almost crave a protocol because they don't know how to interface with it.
Yeah.
Great.
How do you balance the education piece with your own values?
Yeah.
Great.
That's an excellent question, and Glenn and I talk about this a lot because I think, and Glenn and I are quite aligned on this as well, which is in this industry there is what I refer to as old man sauna club, and that's kind of very closed off, gatekeepy community of people. And I think the name suggests what kind of age demographic those people might be and what gender they might be as well. Who like to sit on the bench and just dismiss other people's things. That's not how it should be done. That's wrong. You see it on social media all the time that people will post, hey, I just built my first sauna. And instead of saying, hey, great first sauna, the other things you might want to consider are doing this or considering this. They just go, this sucks, this is rubbish. But, that doesn't help anybody, right? And good way to die. Like this is, this isn't good for the ecosystem. And so when I talked before about not being tied down by our history of culture, what we have in the UK and the US is the ability to riff on that. And our cultures are so much like that, Brits and Americans are known for innovation. We're known for going, that's cool, but what if we do this? And even more so in the UK where, we didn't have a food culture, notoriously bad. Like, people joke about going to the UK and being like, why do you still eat like you're at war, And the truth is actually, you go to the cities now and the food is excellent, but it's excellent because of our colonial history, where we've gone, hey, you can come and live here, but bring all your great food as well, So we love to just absorb all of these different things and I went to a Japanese Brazilian fusion restaurant. I mean, and it was great. It was amazing. So people kind of riffing on these kind of concepts. And I think the important thing is to have a play around and see what works. We're seeing in the UK people who are playing live music in a sauna, people doing life drawing in a sauna, people doing poetry readings in saunas. And I think the reality is, if it's good, people will come more. If it's no good, they won't do it anymore. And I think there's a place for those guided experiences and aufguss experiences for bringing people in. But I would say, don't make that everything. I would say, riff on the concept. Have something a bit different one night and say, tonight we're going to do, this kind of aufguss experience. If nobody signs up, okay, probably don't do that one again. If it's absolutely overbooked, then maybe work that into your itinerary a bit more. But don't worry too much about what everyone else is going to tell you how it should be done, because you don't want to be like every other one as well. The reason why people are talking about othership is they've gone in their own direction, they've brought in different influences, and now everyone is copying them. So, I think also great to hear that you're doing exactly what I said is working really well, and going to the cities where you wouldn't assume it will be a big thing, because I think it will be a success. Well done.
Yeah, Jake will be around here if you want to come on up. You want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so this is just, I've got some of these here if you just want to have a look through. It just kind of, a lot of it is those glossy, sexy images that I talked about of our installations. It's a little bit out of date now, this one, but it's got some cool information about who we are, a bit about the culture and things like that as well, so feel free to take one.
Yeah, and what an effort to bring these all the way from the UK. Was this on the carry-on luggage?
Yeah, we spread it around.
Spread it around. Yeah. Yeah, just like Kyle brought some rocks from Vancouver. They made it through customs just fine. So.
I needed to make space for some maple syrup. So yeah.
Sweet. Thanks for being a part today, Jake, and thanks for joining this.
Thank you.
Come on up and visit with Jake anytime and chit chat.
Do you have any questions for me? Because you always ask. Just to give you some context, I speak to Glenn quite as much as I possibly can in the worlds of busy lives. And Glenn will start with a question that will keep me going for an hour. So
I make sure that when I talk with Jake, it's in the end of the day, Lisa, you can relate when he's home walking the dog. And I have complete focus. I have Jake time until I hear your dog barking. And he's like, oh, he doesn't get along with this Elfie down the street. So bear with me, but we're going to get through. So I get one-on-one time. I mean, Jake, like 40 employees, right?
Yeah.
And Lisa's a key part of the business on the company board. What's a day in the life like for you running, 80 product? Was that the number, 60, 80?
Yeah, so I guess for me, I work hard to design myself out of every process I can. Start the process, get it going, and then pass it to people better. Because I'm a jack of all trades. So, a lot of business books will say, if you can find somebody 50% as good as you, then delegate to them. And I'm like, whoa, if they're 50% as good as me, then they suck at this. Because I'm bad at this. They must really be bad. So what I'll do is I'll start, with the naivety of being naive in something. I'll go, let's do this. This is how we build it. And the American culture of mess around and find out is kind of is very much a part of what I do. And then being able to hand that over to people who are much better. Lisa runs our e-commerce arm of our business. So I started it up, and then you find people who are way better at it and go, okay, you take this to the next level. So now my day-to-day is, I have 5 amazing company directors, and it's providing, a third of my time is spent providing pastoral support, which usually involves me going, that issue you're having, yeah, that sucks. I remember having to deal with that time. Good luck on that, by the way. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, so I get this text at around 10 o'clock last night. Come to room 215. The good guys are here. I show up, and Jake's dad's like, whiskey or beer? I'm like, okay, well, I got to keep up with the Brits. Yeah, so cool. What's it like having Finnmark and your 2 sons in the business?
A great privilege to watch them grow and develop. Just happened to hit the sweet spot when they landed on their feet in the sauna market. If they'd been 5 years earlier, then they'd have probably given it up. So it's one of those when the planets align. But it's just great, very rewarding. But I want to add one point, just real quick. And it's in reply to the 2 gents at the back talking from about their new business in Virginia. Yeah. I'm sure you're aware of it, but both these 2 guys have a big slice of in the social media world. Their podcasts. If you kind of want a bit of an insight, some of the guests talking about how they develop their businesses and how they pick on which direction to go. Very inspirational. If you haven't already vacuumed up every bit of their podcasts, I suggest you find out where they are and start listening to them.
That's Sauna Talk is Glenn's, and the Sauna Twins podcast is Max and mine. So we both interview a lot of owner operators, so they'll tell you all the mistakes they've made, so you guys don't have to.
That's right. And then you have a sauna at home,
yes.
Right? Do you sauna yourself? And introduce yourself.
So I'm Liz. I'm Jake's mum. So we sauna at least three times a week, sometimes 4, more since the autumn, because I had a health check and my blood pressure was a little high. So I thought, what can I do to avoid medication? And I know it's conjecture, but by increasing the number of saunas that we've had over the last 6 months, it's brought my blood pressure right down.
And how old is that sauna, and who built it?
8, 9 years, I think.
10 years.
So it was it was a family teamwork event. But with it's not. Some of the Finnmark saunas are very sort of glitzy and high end, but ours is sort of quite homely. And it's built with larch from one of the local lakes. So not many air miles or that sort of thing. And it's just a very sort of peaceful space to sit in, and the Loilu is fab. So you'll have to come, Glenn.
Oh, I'd love to. We use this term spiritual patina, and it sounds like this sauna exudes spiritual patina. So Lisa, how about you? When Jake comes home, when you both come home from work, because you both work at Finnmark, the facility, does the S word come out at the dinner table? Or do you guys leave sauna on the table when you're at home?
No, never. We always speak about sauna. We work with sauna. We sauna at home after work. I'm usually the one dragging Jake into the sauna, stoking the fire, putting the fire on in our sauna at home, and then I really like a Sunday morning sauna. That's my kind of thing. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Do you find it? Is it all tricky to work in sauna and then talk about sauna and then take sauna? Is there any negative to that being such a huge part of your existence, like your fun and your work and your vocation and your spouse? Is it all good?
It's all good. I mean, I'm here now, so I think it speaks testament to why I love it so much.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're just free flowing. There's no presentation on our heels. I can pass this mic. We could adjourn. I mean, you can get up, talk amongst yourselves.
Does anybody have any more input on what's going on the American side? How the industry is looking and some of those difficulties that we talked about. Yeah, you.
This is Garrett. Introduce yourself, Garrett.
Okay, I'm Garrett Conover from Maine, author and photographer of Sauna Magic. What I really love about what you brought up is evolutionary, but it also points out the need for at least a few ultra-traditionalist curmudgeons in the background. Because what we don't want to lose in any of this is the origin stories. And we want to be open-minded about everything, but we just need a couple of Finnish grandmothers to tell us what's really going on in sauna.
Yeah, here. Thank you. Anyone else? What's going on in your space in the sauna industry? Kyle, you must have some insight about what's happening in North American sauna industry right now.
Man, I think you... I'm Kyle from Homecraft, so we manufacture sauna stoves in BC, Canada. I think you summarized it perfectly, actually. I think the challenge is in North America when it's a money-making opportunity, how do you sift through the culture that you're trying to build that will last longer than just an uptick for 5 years? Do we want this to be something short-term, or are we trying to build something that is going to continually grow strong for forever, right? And that's more on culture, experience, the love of sauna, all of those things. And so as a business owner, one of my first challenges when we bought Homecraft was, where do I want to take it? Do we insert all of the additional fluff to make some money? Or do we continue believing in what we're going to do? And I think we're all challenged with that.
Yeah.
Like, it is a real challenge. I have an inbox of hundreds of emails from e-commerce brands who want to sell our stoves, and I won't sell to them. Now you can hold, I just said that publicly, so I gotta, right? Like, oh shoot. And it's not that I'm anti-e-commerce, but can they give the experience that they should get when they buy a Homecraft stove?
Yeah.
And so if they can prove that, then I'll work with them. But typically, you have to sift through, is this just money making
Yeah.
or not? And that's a big challenge. So we all are challenged with it, with whatever sphere we are in the market.
You can usually
We
tell
wrestle with that.
in about 20 seconds when you go on their site that they'll have every Chinese infrared model possible.
Yeah.
And you know straight away, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, so I think it's what do we want to build that will be sustaining and growing and
Yeah.
those types of things. So
Great.
yeah.
How about Superior? Do you have any insight?
Hi, I'm Shaitlin with Superior Sauna, and have been in a really amazing position over the last 3 years to transform and be part of the revival of sauna and sauna culture in the U.S. And part of what we do, I mean, we've been a manufacturer for over 20 years, a few team members spread about the Sauna Days to take part in seeing the growth that's happening. But as a manufacturer, we evolved under the leadership of David to become a distributor. So we have the opportunity to vet and test and try new products and new materials. And when I came about, I wanted to find another way to market and educate and connect with people. So we have a new experimental social sauna hub in Minneapolis called The Yard. And it's connected to a little mini showroom. But the most magical thing about it is that it's created a sense of community with retirees and restaurant workers fully tatted up and coming in for 7 a.m. sauna and creating friendships and creating a sense of belonging. And that to me, like, I've worked in corporate. I was head of design at PepsiCo, ran Super Bowl events and larger brand launches and had a really great career. This is the most purpose-driven role I've ever had. And it's one that I want to like retire in. And today I'm so grateful my whole family's here. My kids are out there running around and going from sauna to sauna. My son Vaughn, 11, he's out there doing aufguss and becoming like the next world champion. He really wants to take part. So please encourage him and, take part of that journey. But I'm just grateful to be part of it. And I wish that I would have been introduced to it at a much younger age. And I was in my late 30s when I experienced authentic sauna, and it was life-changing. And I really do think that this is the medicine, not to go back to but this is a simple practice that everyone should have access to, no matter what your cultural background is or where your ancestors, or if you are lucky enough to have a Finnish grandmother who taught you, a way of being. And so I just want to give access to all, and it's a really unique experience being part of sharing that with others. So
Great. Fantastic. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lauren, and I represent a company called Plunge. We started in Utah. There's 6 of us here from whether we're in Utah or there's one in Denver. And anyways, we're growing. And so he left. Oh, I wanted to answer his question. No, that's why he was. Okay, well, I guess I'll tell you. This is, if anyone's recording this is supposed to be for the guys in the back who had because really I think that's the question we're all asking, right? Is how do we maintain this community and this culture and stay true to the roots of sauna and cold plunge. And so anyways, Plunge started 4 years ago. It's a sauna and cold plunge studio. We're growing, and I think the biggest thing that we have found in that, because we talk to a lot of Finns about this too, like, you guys are Utah. You're never going to actually be the Finnish sauna, but part of that too is you can still bring elements of that. So when we've done it, obviously we have our stove, and when we go in and we throw water, we talk about, and I say this wrong, so if anyone can really say lolu, I say it wrong all the time, lolu. Anyways, we try really hard, but we try to bring in that, right, where this is what this means when we're throwing the water, this is what it means, and this is why it's so important for so many people, because they can feel this change and this renewal when they come into the sauna, right? Yeah. We talk about it being the heart. We talk about the history of it. We talk about our business was based off of the way we designed it, and just, I think the process of contrast therapy itself is very lagom. It's very balanced. It's not extreme. It's not too little. It's enough, right? So we really bring that idea into everything we do, that especially when people talk about, well, when I come in and how long do I sit in the cold? How long do I sit in the hot? It's listening to your body, that some days you make it 30 seconds and that's fine. That's enough for you today. Sometimes you can make it longer, and that's fine, but it's going back to being present with yourself and understanding that. And I think the more you do this practice, the more you understand that. But sometimes it's nice for people to start with a little bit of okay, do I shoot for 2 minutes? What am I going for here? So you kind of give them at least a little bit of kind of what the time frame or some ideas that they could go off of. And then as they go, they learn more about, okay, I'm actually a 1 minute person. Like that's all I can do in the cold. In the sauna, I can go longer, right? But we also, right above our cold plunges, we have sisu. That's another Finnish concept I'm sure many of you are aware of. It's like grit, but what I love more about sisu is it's this inner strength that everyone has, because I feel like in the US we talk about how you're a gritty person, I may not be much of a gritty person, right? But sisu is something everyone has. And so when you come to plunge or you go do any of these other businesses, right, you have this inner strength that helps you get through it. So we have all these words around that we try to refer back to often that helps unify us as a group when we're there, but also it gives us more of that story. So I think based on those values, those concepts, anyways, if someone could, maybe we'll pass it to these guys later. I'm so sad they left, but.
Do you find that, is that well received?
So well, yeah. And what's beautiful about it is then you'll go back and do a session, right? And you hear other, because we as hosts and those who are owners of plunge in this business, we also sauna and cold plunge all the time. So we'll go back and then we'll hear our guests and our members also telling people, oh, did you know this about, when you throw water, this is what it means, and this is the story behind it. And you'll hear people in the cold plunge like, oh, sisu. They're just trying to get through it, but then they're encouraging each other and they're sharing that story. And so it just becomes this very safe and connected space.
And are you expanding out from you describe yourselves as a cold plunge business, but I would definitely consider that like
it's sauna and cold, it's contrast therapy, yeah. So,
therapy. Mm-hmm. And are you expanding? Are you putting multiple sites in? Is there that much appetite? Or?
Yeah, so right now we are just about to open locations 8 and 9.
Wow.
We're set to open about 20 more. So.
And that will all just be around Utah? Or
no, it's across the states.
Wow,
so and I think what's beautiful about it is everyone who wants to be part of a business like that, they've all been customers, right? Yeah. They've all come and they've experienced the change it brings, right? And it's scary and it's hard, but then you come and realize, oh, I have this community and I've healed and my mind feels better and my body feels better. And so just like you said, it's a place you just want to stay because you're going to make me cry too, just looking at you. It just makes you feel so purposeful to be able to share this as friends, but then they become your family, and you want to gather everyone there.
I think that, that's a great thing to end on. And people often ask me like, what's your biggest takeaway? And I think a sense of purpose is so important. And I look at when you look at the rise in mental health issues that people have across the world, and whether it's a rise or just a recognition, I don't know. But people often ask me, hey, why are you so happy? Why are you so positive all the time? And for me, I'm like, it's one thing, it's a sense of purpose. And that's brought by that. When I walk around our company, pretty much everybody is so psyched about what we're doing. And so, really pulling in the same direction. It's not like old school corporate where it's a constant wrestle and a game of politics and house of cards style nonsense. It's like straight to it, everyone, like this is where we're going, this is what we're doing, and everybody's psyched up for it. And that sense of purpose is what gets you up in the morning and you're like, yeah, come on, let's do it. And I think, I speak to my friends who are having a hard time, and those guy friends of mine, you ask them, okay, but are you feeling like you want to get up and go to work in the morning? They're like, no. And it's because they don't really, they're doing a job that they've selected, not something that they really believe in. And I think that's a differentiating factor. And I think we're all united, looking at all the nodding around the room about how that changes the way you work. And it's the live to work versus work to live thing. So, yeah, great. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sauna Talk podcast. For even more content and discussion of all things sauna, visit SaunaTimes.com. That's where you'll find articles, resources, and the stories that keep the sauna culture moving forward. You can also connect with me, Glenn Auerbach, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Substack. If you're interested in live events, workshops, or local and regional sauna circuits, you'll find those details on the website as well. Finally, if you represent a brand aligned with authentic sauna culture and would like to explore partnership or sponsorship opportunities, I'd love to connect. Reach out through SaunaTimes.com and let's start the conversation. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, I'll see you on the bench.